What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Victory Point podcast. My name is Alex Martinez. Joining me is Andrew
Hey, Alex. Thank you for having me, as always.
and Tyler.
Yo, always happy to be here.
So we're going to talk about the news. So I bought last time I can do this, the Nintendo Switch. I joke. But anyways, how you guys liking Legend of Zelda? I mean, I think it's pretty decent so far. I'm about first map done so far, or the first area where I've done the 4 shrines.
The Great Plateau, yeah.
You're further than I am, then.
I'm liking it so far, but I think it's probably going to hold me until December in terms of how much content that game has.
It's a very big game.
Yeah.
One could argue that it's one of the top 10 games of the year.
Probably.
Still a lot of stuff to come out this year. Still a lot of great stuff to come out this year.
I got 5 months to go.
Yeah, there's still a lot of great stuff to come out. Yeah, but I loved my time with it. I mean, like you both said, you're very early on in the game, but it's a great game. And like I said, the portability of the Switch made it even better because whether I was at work on a lunch break or, at home on my TV, it was really cool to play Zelda literally wherever I was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm so surprised about how the user interface is kind of set up. So whenever you go to a town, all the items are already out to display. So you don't have to just go to a shopkeeper, go to another menu item. All the items are just out there, so you can just select it and pick it up. It's those little details that I find kind of new.
Yeah, and I mean, you're probably playing it with 1.2, which is nice. It upped the frame rate in some of the towns a little bit because those got a little framey. But yeah, there are some things that the game doesn't do as well as I would have liked. But for the majority, it's a wonderful, wonderful game. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts as you dig deeper into it.
Yeah, I would say the traversal was kind of a problem just in that small area until you get that air map thing, or that where you can glide through the air.
The glider, after the 4 shrines. Yeah, and I think that the game, I wish they would have given you a little bit more stamina at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. I think the one wheel is a little bit too limiting. Maybe if they gave you 2 wheels or a wheel and a half, I think it would have rewarded exploration even more than it does. And the game does do a good job rewarding the player for their exploration and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say I like that they limit you to a small area, but I think the one thing the tutorial leaves out so far is that it doesn't show you how to upgrade your health or your stamina or your fitness at all. I'm having to dig through multiple guides and see how you do all that stuff, and I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but that just seems like that might have been a setback.
Yeah, they do a again, it's not directly stated, but they do a decent job because after you get those 4 shrines, it basically guides you to the Temple of Time.
Yeah.
And in the Temple of Time, there is a shrine that says you can turn in 4 orbs, which are from the 4 shrines you just did to upgrade your health or stamina. So so it guides you there. It doesn't explicitly tell it. It gives it a little glow, but it doesn't say, hey, this is how you upgrade your health and stamina. But that's very much the premise of this game. It's really, show from a distance, and that the player really use the tools and figure out a lot of the secrets and things by themselves. I personally turned it to Pro HUD. So it turned off the mini map and everything, and it was just, it's a beautiful game. I mean, aesthetically, it's going for a certain style, but the style that they are going for, they do very well.
So is the Pro mode unlocked by using the Pro controller, Andrew? Do you have to be a certified Pro, or how do you get to
no,
that?
it's just in the main menu. But I do have a Pro controller, and I haven't looked back. Although I will say, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe works surprisingly decent with a sideways Joy-Con, because I got into a situation at work, and we played 4-player split screen for the new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which recently released. And although it drops to 30 frames per second instead of 60, it played pretty well
on that tiny Switch screen.
Yeah, and we're all just these big Goombas all crowding in, 4 of us trying to. It was funny because I used the Pro controller, somebody else used their Pro controller, and then we had the 2 Joy-Cons and we turned them sideways.
So I could see 2-player being all right, but man, 4-player.
It was very small. It was very small, but I feel like if you have to get in that situation, it works.
Situation.
So that situation, thank you. It works, but it's not ideal. But it worked really well, and we had fun. We did a few races, and we played one of the new battle modes, and they really improved the battle mode in that game, which I'm a fan of because I loved, back in college, we always used to play Mario Kart 64 balloon battle, first to 10.
Yeah.
I got a little bored and everything.
I would say I haven't played Mario Kart. It's 8, not 9, right?
Yep, 8 Deluxe.
But I haven't played Mario Kart 8. I played a little bit on the Wii or the Wii U, but after seeing like some of the reviews for the Switch version, it seems like it's more just gloating about it, not just actually examining what it's actually providing. I mean, I hear the network is not really up to date so far. I mean, bear in mind we're at a week after launch, and I understand that the Switch is not really the most hardware accessible yet, but I don't know. I just kind of seen some issues with the way it's been reviewed.
They did. It's worth pointing out that I know that they gave review copies out very late. Like I think they arrived like 3 days maybe prior, so people didn't have much time.
Less than a week. And to your point,
not trying
Mario
to give
Kart
like
8,
any critic a pass or anything, because I think
absolutely.
you still have to be a professional in that regard, and you don't have to run your review like as soon as the embargo breaks.
But you lose a lot of.
I figured I just figured I'd pass it on.
Mario Kart 8 is a wonderful game, but Nintendo only sold 13. But Nintendo only sold 13.5 million Wii U's, so nobody played Mario Kart 8. So it's really, really cool to see a lot more people jumping in and getting to experience Mario Kart 8 with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And it sold very well, and rightfully so, because it is, depending on who you ask, all anecdotal, but probably one of the best, if not the best Mario Kart game out there. Because 8 was
Mario Kart DS.
I loved Mario Kart DS. I love Mario Kart DS. I love Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS. All great games.
Mario Kart DS, for the record, the only Mario Kart with a good single-player mode.
Now, I agree.
That's debatable.
Now, I will say, for the people who did own a Wii U, bought Mario Kart 8, and kept up with it, and bought all of the DLC, you might think twice before jumping in and paying $60 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, unless you want the portability aspect of it, which is perfectly fine. I mean, I love, literally, I did not think I would be in this situation, but I have used the Switch in a lot of environments that I would have. I watched that stupid commercial with the ladies inviting them over to a barbecue on a roof, and I go, this is never going to be me. I'm going to have this thing in the dock. Right? I'm going to have this thing in the dock. I'm going to play Zelda on my big 4K TV, and I'm going to love it. But I play Zelda at lunch with my buddy, and we talked about the secrets and everything. I brought it in. We played the Splatoon test fire together. Well, we tried to. We have a strict NAT, so it wouldn't let us on at the office. But we played that. And now we played Mario Kart at lunch the other day, and people came over and they wanted to play and stuff like that. It's a really cool thing, just like getting people together. Even if, like Tyler said, the screen is pretty small, it's cool to get people around there. We even had a discussion about maybe going in for an office dock, so we can dock one of them at the office in one of the rooms. Yeah, it's really cool. And like I said, if you're on the fence, if you bought all the DLC for Mario Kart 8, this game doesn't really add too much. Again, a revamped battle mode. But
there are like a few nice things that I do want to touch on. They added a few characters, which is whatever. Like characters are basically all reskins for the most part. But the one thing I really like is that they added some helpful like controls. Like you can have it auto accelerate, or you can have the steering goes on. And like while like I'm sure like a lot of people will like roll their eyes at these like accessibility add-ons, but I think it's really cool. I've seen a lot of cool stories. Like there was a great Reddit post about this guy whose daughter can't play games normally, and but she can like play now with her siblings because of the extra controls. And my buddy was telling me his wife's real bad at typically bad at Mario Kart, but because of the new steering stuff, like she's competitive with them, and they're able to play together now for the first time, and they're like super competitive with each other. And I think that's really cool that Nintendo's going in that direction, even if maybe I won't use that stuff. Although I have been using the auto acceleration because why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's not like you're ever gonna break. But like it's cool add-on.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that Mario Kart 8 is not a bad game. I'm just saying that I'm more worried about games like Splatoon 2 or even Splatoon Remastered are going to get the same treatment just because I'm just worried about like pivotal features like network, like online gameplay. Just seems like it's overlooked at the moment.
And to talk to that point real quick, Alex, I think you're right in the sense of like, so for instance, it was last Saturday or Sunday, I had a few buddies online, and the way the online works is you have to be in Mario Kart and you have to create a lobby, and you'll only get the invite once you're in game on Mario Kart, which is kind of insightful. Granted, this is the same company whose online features currently literally just let me see how many hours of Puyo Puyo Tetris Tyler has played. So it's a very it's a very limiting online software. So I had to text my buddy and say, "Hey, you want to play a race in Mario Kart?" And he's like, "Yeah, let me get on." And that's very weird. And like the accessibility of it needs to be a little bit better. So if you're playing Legend of Zelda, Alex, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to do a quick race in Mario Kart?" It'll pop up and say, "Hey, Andrew wants to play Mario Kart." Like modern day systems, like an Xbox, like a PlayStation 4. Granted,
And like
this is Nintendo.
it exposes a lot of flaws because like you don't even appear online unless you're in a game on the Switch. Like if you just have the menus open, you're not seen as online.
Yeah, there is also no. Go ahead, Tyler.
And this is going to be something Nintendo is charging for soon. It's going to be $30 a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think people really and journalists, we need to like make them accountable for this because like
that has to be
it's unacceptable. Like how
show,
they,
right?
I mean, $30 a year when you that's almost what 2/3 of what Xbox Live and PlayStation. That's a tough bargain, and you don't get any free games a month. And plus,
I think they're going to do like one virtual console thing.
But you get one game a month, and they take that away from you each month.
Back, yes.
It's like, come on, that they're still stuck up there.
I will say they have an interesting idea. So it's essentially saying instead of giving us 3 games like a lot of these services do, Xbox Gold and PlayStation Plus, they're giving you 1 game, but they're upgrading that game in a sense and adding it to it. So, hey, this month everybody gets Super Metroid for free for the month, and we added a time trial mode. So you can look at leaderboards and see like time trials, like what it is to beat Super Metroid in certain types of runs.
I will say, like one of the nice things about it, like going away, is that it'll probably force me to play these old games that I might not otherwise play. Andrew.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because like it would be really cool, and Nintendo's smart because it has everybody talking about one game, which is which is cool and smart on their half. Again, a little, I think we have to hear something at E3 this year about their online plans because, like Tyler mentioned, they will be charging. August, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's something about that. But like this month alone, Tales from the Borderlands, a game that we all of us kind of like I think it's worth $60, is going to be free on PlayStation Plus. And
wasn't it like $20? I don't think.
I mean, I'm talking about like day one. That would have been a $60 game for all 5 episodes.
Well, it was 25.
I don't think they're
okay, fine.
The season pass. Fine. Yeah, they could never get away. The people would be outraged if they charged $60 for the Telltale.
They're giving you 3 games.
Yeah, like arguably a Game of the Year contender.
Yeah, like for me, like
it was a wonderful game.
I don't think the argument is quite set on take an old game and make it better on the Switch. I don't think that argument quite.
Nintendo's clearly still has a long way to go in a lot of areas. It's interesting because like I follow a bunch of Nintendo fans on Twitter, and they've always had this attitude of where like the media is against them. It's mostly just that Nintendo has largely sucked a lot, but like you see them now with the Switch, everybody's cheering for the Switch, and like if anything, Nintendo gets more passes on stuff than like they get like bullied around in the media. So it's kind of like funny to see how perception differs so far from reality when it comes to that.
Yeah, and make no mistake, they still got that shady stuff. I mean, if a mini Super Nintendo comes out this year after like the disaster, granted sales wise it wasn't a disaster, but granted what they pulled with the mini NES Classic, that's kind of sketchy, and that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But I will say the Switch launch has been incredibly successful for them, and they have delivered a bunch of good independent games and great first-party games. So I think they're sitting just fine, but it's this post-E3 that I'm worried about, seeing content come out from that.
So this month's PlayStation Plus lineup is probably one of the best in recent memory for PlayStation. Tales from the Borderlands, that's on PlayStation 4. Abzu, from the creators of Journey.
Yeah, my second favorite game of last year, art director of Journey.
Wonderful game.
Blood Knights, PlayStation 3. No memory of that, but still, it's a free game on PlayStation Plus. Port Royal 3. Go ahead, I don't know about that one.
It's like a sea trading sim or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
Laser Disco Defenders. It's a game for Tyler, I'm going to assume.
Yeah.
It's a PlayStation Vita game that's cross-buy with PlayStation 4. Maybe you get both copies.
Disco Defenders is fun.
Yeah,
It's like
you
a
get that,
top-down. It's like a top-down game.
That's
pretty cool.
The main point I'm making is that you're getting 5 games for a $60 value a year. That's per month. I mean, and then you want to compare that to Xbox also, like.
Yeah, I think both Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus are tremendous values right now.
Yeah, I think they're doing, they're really going for something different. Obviously, they handle things very differently there. Like the friends options on that game, they will eventually, when they come out, will be dedicated to an app on your phone. So voice chat, your friends list, things like that are going to be handled through an app on your phone. So even in that regard, by just saying that, I don't even, think they're trying to compete with those big like Xbox and those PlayStations. Granted, they are. Once you say you're charging for internet services, you are, subtly competing with them, especially if you are going to charge them to play online. Do I have to pay the $30 to play Mario Kart online, or is it $30 to get these benefits? I think you have to pay to play online, right?
I mean, I assume,
sure.
as someone who doesn't really know, I assume that's the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. But then it's interesting because we talk about this backwards stuff, but then another news story that we were going to touch on briefly is Zelda Breath of the Wild's first downloadable content pack was announced, and almost everything in this content pack are very good additions to this game. Very smart, well thought out additions to an already great game. So the biggest ones being a challenge mode, essentially 45 levels. It's like a Coliseum type thing, and it gets progressively harder as you go along. And if you beat that, you get a special thing for your Master Sword. There's also a chest there that will give you a special item that will like essentially create waypoints for you, one waypoint, and you can fast travel to that waypoint. So instead of just fast traveling to a tower or to a shrine, you also get like this one other waypoint, which is really interesting and cool.
It's kind of weird that they're charging for it though.
That is, yes, that like, and also like the another thing we did mention was the map feature that essentially acts as a tracker of where you've been. So it shows you a little green line with footsteps, and like it's like, oh, you've been over in the bottom right half of the map, so you can track where you've been and stuff. And you can turn that off. And then some other things like a Korok mask that when you wear it, it'll rumble and stuff when Korok seeds are more visible. There are 900 of them in the game, so it helps soften, that blow of finding as many as you want. So all very smart things. And then, of course, a bunch of more outfits, that fans, I'm sure, will like that have no bearing on stats.
Now, let me ask you both. I am only 5 hours in. Maybe this is more directed at Andrew since he's. But you finished Breath of the Wild, right? So for me, it just seems like with this DLC and since it only has 2 DLC packs, it just kind of seems like this kind of plays into Nintendo's policy of never going into red, always selling stuff at green. It's essentially never going into never losing a profit. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like to me.
They're taking a little bit of a loss on the Switch hardware, but companies usually take losses on hardware, and then they recoup it through accessories.
They didn't take any loss with the Wii U, and that's probably the only reason. Until recently, they didn't do a price cut for the Wii U. It's still at $250.
The Wii U doesn't make any. They don't make it anymore. They stopped making it. Yeah, they stopped making.
That's my point. It's like they. Part of the reason why no one really adapted it, but
and I believe I'm probably, I'm like 99% sure, but I believe the Wii U was also sold at a loss. Again, that's a common practice, though. Hardware is sold at a loss.
I'm not sure it was like Nintendo. While that is true, like most companies do, Nintendo's been really like adamant of not selling at a loss, like traditionally. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, so it may or may not be true. But like traditionally, they have sold like like above cost. So
yeah, I'm just looking at a GameIndustry.biz article that just talks about them selling the Wii U at a loss still.
Okay, then maybe it is
to
then.
this day.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are definitely a company that tries to keep, like Alex said, in the green and stuff like that. But they, it costs them about $60 to make a Joy-Con set, and they sell those for about $80. So accessories are really where they're going to make a lot of their money back.
The Switch. There's $100 docks.
Yeah. But that's great. The one thing that is a little sketchy is you can only buy the DLC as a bundle. So if you can't just buy DLC piece 1 and 2 piecemeal, you have to buy them in a pass, which, if you only wanted like the story thing that's coming in the second downloadable content, you can't just buy that by itself. You have to buy both together.
Considering how cheap the DLC is, it's only $20 total.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
and literally, like I said, it's not out yet, so I haven't gotten a chance to play it myself, but everything that they've announced for it enhances the game. It makes the game better, and I think that's an important thing to constantly, or when you do update it, to make it better.
It is promising. It's very promising to see like the first Breath of the Wild update like have stuff that we're excited for, because Nintendo's been very hit or miss with their DLC. We've seen some great stuff like Super Luigi U for the new Super Mario Brothers U. Like that was a fantastic add-on, well priced. The Mario Kart 8 DLC, very well priced for what you got in that game, because they basically added a whole game's worth of tracks for that game. Like it was wild how much DLC they put out for that.
Yeah.
And here we're seeing a lot of other stuff, but for other games like Fire Emblem had really expensive and like bad DLC. New Super Mario Brothers 2 on the 3DS had like I think it was like $20 worth of DLC for like 10 Mario levels or something ridiculous. Like they've been very hit or miss that, so it's nice to see them starting well on the Switch, and I hope they continue that.
Yeah, awesome. I'm super excited to dig into it. I'll jump back into Zelda after when the DLC comes out, because I am interested in trying that challenge. But unfortunately, one of the worse aspects of the game is the combat, and one of the big pieces of this DLC is a 45 level combat arena. So, but I hope that is interesting enough to want to get through all 45 levels, because what you get is pretty cool, because there is weapon durability in that game, and even the Master Sword, it doesn't break, but it has to recharge after a certain time. And apparently, if you beat all 45 levels, it'll let you use that Master Sword. It'll always be fully charged and stuff, which is pretty cool.
So you're not a fan. So you're not a fan of the melee combat?
I think it's fine. It's a numbers game. I mean, Joseph Anderson, a YouTube critic and analyst, he did like a 2-hour video on Breath of the Wild, which if you've beaten the game, I highly recommend you watch. But one of the things he goes into, it really is a numbers game. So it just depends on, enemies do a certain amount of damage, defense mitigates a certain amount of damage, and they don't tell you the numbers that it is. So it's kind of frustrating that even if you have really good defensive, items, you run up against somebody who you don't know, like one of the Lionels, which are the toughest enemies in the game, they'll kill you one shot. And it's not fair that you've upgraded your hearts to about 7 hearts, but you're still dying on one shot and you don't know why. And then the combat itself is just okay. I mean, I didn't really have too many problems with weapon durability and things like that, but it's just really, a lot of dodging to get to the flurry rush, which is like a parry ability that you have, and just spamming that and using your best weapons. I was take it with a grain of salt, but for me personally, again, all anecdotally, when I got to the first Divine Beast, the Ganon version of that, or the boss of that section, is I parried him once and did a flurry strike, and he was at half health. And then he did a phase shift, and I did it again, and I killed him in like 2 flurry rushes because I was so overpowered. So I'm like, oh, because that game doesn't really have bosses. It has like 4 main bosses, and then obviously, Ganon. So it's like, and it has some like mini bosses in the open world and stuff, but for the most part, like the big ones at the end of the dungeons that Zelda's known for are very minimal. So to beat one in like 2 hits, it was kind of sad. But they are adding a hard mode to the game, so that's cool. So if you want more of a challenge, the enemies are tiered. So it goes like red, blue, black, silver. And then so it's the hard mode is so the red guys that you start with, they're now blue. And then it basically raises the tiers of the enemies that you fight. So that's an interesting little twist on it too.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of interesting to come back to Nintendo. I mean, I still have my 3DS and I use it for Pokemon, but it's kind of coming back to it's coming back to Nintendo as a console. And
you're gonna get a new 2DS XL.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
That whole thing.
What an interesting thing! What an interesting thing! Just to stealth release that, announce it at least.
That whole thing kind of turned me off and made me regret about buying a Switch. Also, it's like I was really hoping, even with the announcement of the Nintendo Switch, that this whole library would be all in one place. But it just seems like the messaging is not concurrent. And I'm not too sure what's going to happen with that.
Make no mistake, if you don't have a 3DS and you're looking to get into that market, $150 for a good-looking, handheld like that. Yeah. The DS and 3DS have a wonderful launch. A lineup of games. So
but you'll miss out on all the essential 3D.
Oh yeah, what a joke.
That was a yeah.
I don't want to say that.
Regretful Avatar years.
Some of the games had some cool 3D effects in them. I played through New Super Mario or Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS in 3D. And it was pretty
Star
cool.
Fox 64 had some nice 3D when they did that remake.
I also didn't mind Ocarina, the remake of that, but
oh yeah, that's wonderful. Both that and Majora's Mask made improvements to already great games.
You sure Majora's a good game?
But Majora's Mask is a good game. It's it's the redheaded stepchild of the Zelda games. They had 18 months to make it, so it's they made it very, very quickly. But it does some very interesting things, and that port, that 3DS port makes it better because they change a lot of a few mechanics that make it a little bit more bearable. Because that game is about time manipulation, and they make it easier to do that.
All right. Well, I think it's time to segue into the other news of the week, which was Darksiders. I would say it was also kind of the best Zelda games of last decade. I would say the first two were really good. I just didn't get the attention it deserved at the time. But a lot of Zelda influence in Darksiders 1 and 2. We've been over the THQ scenario with them shutting down production. With yeah,
A Link Between Worlds came out in the past decade.
Oh yeah, that's a very good Zelda game.
That's a fantastic game.
People like Skyward Sword. I will
take those are some weird people, man. Those are some weird people. Weird people that still play the Wii.
Yeah, I love Darksiders 1 more than 2, although I did like 2. So
did you know that Wind Waker was the best review game of 2003?
Oh, Wind Waker's a great game. I love Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
It's the one I can't stand.
Really? Wind Waker? Yeah. I like Wind Waker. I think it does some interesting things. But Darksiders, yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by this. I know we joked a little bit about THQ Nordic a few shows ago. Like, why would you name yourself THQ Nordic? It's very interesting. But yeah, Darksiders 3, it's published by them, but more so it is Vigil Games. Oh man. Excuse me for not.
Yeah, I assume. Well, Andrew's looking this up.
Vigil Games. Yeah, Vigil Games.
I assume that when THQ was going through the bankruptcy, the plans for Darksiders 3 was to have it be co-op, and it would include the finding all four horsemen, which they've been leading up to the first two. They showcased the first two, but I think they were going to rush it and now make it more about just concluding the series and sending it off the right way.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. And excuse me, quick edit. It's Gunfire Games are making this third Darksiders game, and it's made up of a bunch of Vigil Games ex-employees who made the first two games. So it'd be very interesting. I don't know how big of a studio Gunfire Games is, but I wonder what the scope of this game will be. You know, knowing that it's a smaller studio. And I just wonder how big this game would be. But I'm excited. I love Darksiders 1 and 2. It has an interesting premise. In this one, Fury comes down to Earth, and it takes place at the same time as Darksiders 2. And she essentially needs to destroy physical embodiments of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
Which is a cool idea, and it'll be interesting to see their takes on the 7 deadly sins in like a video game form. And good for them. I mean, that was a pleasant surprise. I like Darksiders 2, but with the whole THQ going under and things like that, I was like, well, we probably won't see a Darksiders 3. So to have one, be announced, that's really cool. And I think it's in good hands because those guys did the original 2. So I'm excited.
I would say I'm more surprised that it didn't fall under Deep Silver. That was kind of what I've always thought was going to happen with Deep Silver has the Homefront brand, and I always thought those two were going to I thought they were going to pick up the rest of the brand, but I guess there is some brand relevance.
Please remember that the big hot release, Darksiders War Mastered Edition, was a THQ.
Yes. What about Darksiders 2 Remastered, the Definitive Edition?
God.
Definitive.
I don't mind that stupid branding, but
I actually got both of those games recently because they had that THQ Nordic Humble Bundle.
Yeah, I bought both of them again.
I'm all set for Darksiders 3 now.
Have you ever played them, Tyler?
I played Darksiders 2 on Xbox One, which was a really crappy port that had a bunch of technical issues.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Darksiders
I haven't played the first game yet though, so I'm hoping I have a better time with that than I did with the second.
The first one has Mark Hamill as the voice actor, and it's always fun.
You played your sidekick. Yeah, you played your sidekick.
It's always fun.
Darksiders 1's a fun game. Yeah. Darksiders 1's a fun game, and like Alex said, very Zelda-ish. 2's a little bit more open world than.
Yeah, I didn't like 2.
Yeah.
But you can go wrong with something that's been War Mastered.
Yeah, I only played it about 70% of 2, maybe. And then I kind of fell off of it. But cool. Good for them.
I would say Darksiders 2 fell in that camp of the industry was transitioning from PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4 era, and he's caught in that middle ground of does it want to release on the Xbox 360 then? And it just felt like it was caught in that weird time. I'm looking forward to it. But I recommend keeping your expectations really low because we don't really know the pedigree of Nordic that well. So I think it's
and like I said, it's in good hands. Gunfire Games, a bunch of ex-Vigil people who made the first 2 games, and really reading the IGN first review, hands-on they had of it. It seems like they are going a little bit in between 1 and 2, so it won't be the world will be connected as a whole, but it won't be an open world game like 2 was, which is, I think a potential sweet spot. Because I think the open world in 2 was it wasn't a good open world, and I think it got a little too cumbersome.
Yeah. The other industry news that I saw was much interesting was that Remedy is partnering with 505 Games.
Yeah. Project 7.
Project 8, Project 9, Project 10, whatever.
Well, no, it's no. The game is called Project 7.
I know. But
it's.
But Remedy is the original creators of Max Payne. They also did Quantum Break, which
everybody's favorite Xbox One exclusive.
I mean, I think it's a lot. It's really ambitious, but I don't think it really pays off. And
hey, in all honesty, if you can find Quantum Break for less than $10, if you can find that thing for $5, I would recommend playing through it for $5. I mean, it doesn't do anything particularly interesting besides the live action stuff. That game is essentially split into thirds. You play as Jack Kelly. I don't know if that's his name.
Iceman.
You play as Iceman for 1/3 of it. Then you have the live action part where you essentially see it from the bad guy's perspective. Another person's perspective. And then you have these moral choices. These little in-between acts where you play as the bad guy, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, and you get to make things that impact the story of the game. So, again, I don't think the game is particularly great, but it does some interesting things, and I think it's ambitious of them to try it.
I also think this is somewhat of a death knell for for the series in general. I don't think they're ever going to come back to it. Just,
No, absolutely not.
But like, if you were holding out hope for it, I think this is somewhat a send off. Or, I mean, I give Microsoft a ton of credit, but like, I don't think they. I think this Quantum Break was that weird era where Microsoft was trying to do that weird TV studio, that entertainment branding thing. So
you're talking to a guy who sacrifices at least 3 goats every third Saturday of the month to a picture of Sam Lake, hoping we'll get a new Alan Wake game. So
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Probably not. But I really liked Alan Wake. Yeah, I know. Sorry, goats. I really like Alan Wake, so I would really like to see an Alan Wake 2, but that DLC was probably the most cumbersome DLC I've ever experienced in a game. It's very weird.
I actually haven't finished, or actually haven't played Alan Wake, so that's kind of my...
Alan Wake's awesome.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know if Tyler's played
I hear the DLC is better than the actual game, but it's
interesting. It goes places. Let's just say that. Like I said, you mentioned it. I love Remedy. I think they've made a lot of great games and ambitious games in the past, and I hope that their partnership with 505 Games, who have taken some chances and have published some really interesting games, Brothers, Tale of Two Sons. I hope that it works out for them, because I'd love to play something good from Remedy again.
Yeah, if you guys can look this up for me, but I think 505 sold a somewhat of the percentage of their company in order to do this partnership. So
interesting.
So that's, and the track record with Remedy. They usually take 3+4 years to complete a project, and I just don't think they're that studio that's capable of doing that. I don't think they're marketable enough. Quantum Break certainly wasn't beneficial for Microsoft. So
no, and it's also an interesting thing to note is that Project 7 will be the first Remedy game in over a decade to come out on a PlayStation console, because Alan Wake and Quantum Break were both Xbox console exclusives. So it'll be interesting to see that partnership, if that adds anything to it.
Unless you count Max Payne, which is not really... It's still Rockstar, but it still had the Remedy roots in it, but that's probably...
Remedy didn't touch Max Payne 3, so I'm not counting that. And I love Max Payne 3. It's actually my favorite Max Payne game, so...
It is.
I love Max Payne 3. I think it's a great game.
I tried playing the original Max Payne recently, and...
It's hard to go back and play that game.
Well.
It's hard, but it's
hard to go back and play that game. I think it handles very mature themes, and I think that it does a good job at that, and the cutscenes are presented more of like a comic than, more cinematically than like a Max Payne 3. But like Tyler said, it is a tough game to go back and play through. I'm sure there are like fan mods that you can, maybe throw into it on the PC version, but to go back to a console version of it, it's
they re-released it on PS4, and rough time I had.
Yeah, but that franchise is very... Sorry to cut you off, Alex. That game is very, influential to modern day video games, because it was one of the first games with bullet time and the slow down time mechanic and things like that. So, yeah, I'm excited. I love Remedy. I'm interested to see what they do, and those people there, make smart story decisions, because they are very focused on trying to tell interesting stories in these big AAA blockbuster games, and I personally will never fault them for that.
Did Max Payne come out before The Matrix?
Max Payne 1?
Yeah, just the original. I'm just kind of curious.
I think Max Payne 1 was 2001. So if it came out 2001...
Yep, 2001 for Max Payne.
Yeah, so I think The Matrix was 2000. Yeah. So about similar time now.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Matrix was 99. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah, Matrix was 99. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's still a very interesting, unique idea to bring 2 games to make you feel like... I mean, I played through Super Hot VR this year as an Oculus Rift owner, and, like, even today, you feel... Like, I feel sort of like Max Payne when I play that game of, like, so for the listeners / watchers, I don't even know if we're still... videoing, but for everybody, Super Hot is a game where time moves when you move, so you are doing very Matrix-esque style moves in that game, and I felt kind of like a badass, kind of like a Max Payne, kind of like a Neo from the Matrix, and you can definitely see that.
Kind of like a little Enter the Matrix, the classic 2003 hit.
It's not a bad game, actually. I give Enter the Matrix a lot of credit. It's better than the actual.
What about the Path of Neo? That was
Don't
also
play
a game.
that. Don't play
Path
that.
of Neo. End of Path of Neo. It's like the Wachowskis literally come on screen in like director's chairs and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
but what about this?" And all the Agent Smiths form together to make one gigantic Agent Smith, and you have to fight them. And I'm like, this is very weird. But I was on board.
It actually works. Just because I mean, it works, but it kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know.
interesting. But yeah, good for Remedy. I'm excited to see what they do. I like them.
Gotta love those crazy Wachowskis.
Yes, the Wachowski siblings.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope they bring back the Matrix, but I doubt that's gonna happen. So yeah, during the week we had a bunch of trailers for Netflix for Dark Tower. I'm a big fan of Netflix's Marvel lineup. Maybe not Iron Fist. That's I would say that's by far the worst one. By far, like it's not even it's not even going to appear on the screen. They had for Defenders. I think that comes out in early August, which is pretty good timing. I think August is when fall semester in colleges kind of start up again. So I'm looking forward to that. That has Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and of course Iron Fist.
And Sigourney Weaver.
Damn Sigourney, yeah. Good old Sigourney appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that has I'm pretty sure that has Carrie-Anne Moss too from The Matrix. Come to think about it.
She was in Jessica Jones, so
Yeah.
she might return for the Defenders because she was in Jessica Jones. So it'll be interesting to see if she makes a return. She probably will. I mean, this is definitely this is their Avengers, so it's definitely the culmination of the 4 shows that Netflix released. And I'm very similar to Alex. Iron Fist left a little sour taste in my mouth because I did not think that came together as well as they would have hoped. Especially with a lot of big controversy. I loved Luke Cage. I really enjoyed Luke Cage. A little bit slower than both Daredevil and Jessica Jones, but I really liked what Luke Cage did with the character. The biggest problem with the Netflix Marvel series is, for me personally, they're 13-episode orders, and they always try to do 2 arcs. And I always find myself thinking the first arc is much more concise and essentially better than the second arc. You know, like Daredevil season 2, the first arc was the Punisher. The second arc was Elektra. Jessica Jones bucks that trend a little bit. The whole thing is about, the Purple Man and things like that. But Luke Cage is very much, the first half is Cotton Mouth, and then the second half is, Diamondback, I want to say it's the bad guy's name.
It's Diamondback, yeah.
Diamondback, yeah. And while I think that stuff is good, I just don't think it's as good as the first half because, obviously Mashallah Ali, who won an Oscar recently for his role in Moonlight as a supporting actor, he was very good in the first half of Luke Cage. And Iron Fist also does it, but Iron Fist was not very good in general, so who cares what those arcs were.
Yeah, we can talk about the stereotypes regarding Iron Fist, but
corporate espionage, bad acting.
I stopped 3 episodes into Iron Fist where they got into him going to crazy psychotherapy and like, oh, all of a sudden now you're the lead CEO. You know how to handle a business. It makes perfect sense. With Luke Cage, though, I thought that the first half, like you said, was so much better, and then the second half, I thought they tried to do too much with Black Lives Matter. I tried that they connected that too much with that, but I also thought that was timely too. I thought that was the key with Luke Cage. That came out, I think, 2 weeks before the November election, and I felt that was hit at the right moment, where Luke Cage just felt, or with Iron Fist, just felt like they just had to get that out of the way in order for Defenders to happen. Which it's probably the Hulk of the Netflix series, which it exists, it happened. Now let's just make the better thing happen.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and the Defenders looks like it's very much taking inspiration from those 4 shows. There's going to be another hallway long take fight scene, I'm sure, and things like that. So
That's kind of a Netflix thing, right?
I'm sure people will watch it. And when 3/4 of the team have had good runs, I think it'll do very well for them. Netflix is, like you mentioned,
I'm going to bet that Iron Fist is the breakthrough star here of Defenders.
I think he's already had his.
I hope so.
I mean, I think he's already had his breakout. I
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I saw Iron Fist in the trailer, and I was like, man, I really hope there's very minimal Iron Fist in this thing. But he's one of the 4 members, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Iron Fist in it. But, it's very funny. They even talk it. It's like a blind lawyer, a psychic detective, a man who cannot get hurt, and a boy with a glowing fist. I'm like, he even just sounds bad. A boy with a glowing fist. It's dumb. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like Alex mentioned, August, it'll be, I'm interested to see how that tracks and how, reviews go, because, people did not like Iron Fist, like Alex mentioned. And even Luke Cage had some lukewarm to good reviews, but it wasn't as strong as their first 2 Jessica Jones and Daredevil series. So, but Netflix has so much stuff that's original content now that it's mind-boggling. And if you don't want to watch the superhero stuff, you don't have to, because they have so much stuff. I remember when the first season of House of Cards came out, and I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, Kevin Spacey's doing like original thing on Netflix is going to be awesome. And then they started doing movies and things like that. So, and now we get 5 more Adam Sandler movies. So, I mean, it wasn't all a waste.
They're the most watched Netflix movies by far, surprisingly.
Yes, they are.
So
they are. People love Adam Sandler movies. That's why there's 5 more coming. After things like The Ridiculous 6 and The Do-Over and Sandy Wexler.
I don't know. It's Netflix's TV has stepped up its game, but it's almost too much at this point.
There's a lot, like the staggering number that I saw the other day is I think it was like a 10 times ratio of Netflix subscribers to Comcast subscribers, cable subscribers. And that's mind-boggling to think about. Obviously, don't quote me on that, but it's mind-boggling to think of that in a sense of like, Comcast is one of the larger cable companies, and like the number of Netflix subscriptions is, drastically over that. So
I think what we really need to remember here is that Amazon's TV output is really at the top because they put out that Zelda Fitzgerald show. That's hilarious. So,
just a quick addendum. 4 times the subscribers of Comcast Cable, which is still a crazy number when you think about it, because Comcast is one of the leading cable providers, at least in America. So it's staggering to think about. Also staggering to think about, Alex, is there's going to be a Dark Tower movie.
Damn it, I was going to segue.
sorry. So I knew we were going to get to that time.
I know you're the bigger Dark Tower fan. I know you're the bigger Stephen King fan than I, but what were your impressions of it?
Yeah, and I'll definitely be interested to hear your impressions of it as well, and maybe even Tyler's. I don't know if you got a chance to see the trailer, but as people that haven't read the books. But for those that don't know, The Dark Tower is a 7-book, 8, I guess, if you consider the one that goes in between them, but a 7-book series that essentially was the culmination of Stephen King's works, because characters from The Stand, It, characters from a lot of his other works. Stephen King's in The Dark Tower in book 7. So it's basically like all of his stuff comes together towards the end of it. But it's a, basic premise of that series is Roland is a gunslinger, and he is tasked to stop the Man in Black, who's played by Matthew McConaughey in this film, and Roland is played by Idris Elba.
Yep.
Well, and for the viewers listening, the Dark Tower movie will not be a direct retelling of the novels. It's actually going to do something similar, because the way those novels works is it's a sort of a never-ending cycle. So think of it as like playing a new game plus, if you will, of like, hey, you keep a lot of your stats from your last playthrough. So this movie is essentially like, hey, those books? It's essentially a sequel to that book. It's another run, and he keeps a lot of the stuff that you will remember from the books in this run. So from that, it's very interesting. The trailer.
Who's the punk kid who ends up meeting this gunslinger?
Oh, that's Jake. Yeah, that's Jake. He is one of the main characters, and he essentially bridges the gap of the real world to the gunslinger's world. And I think that they will. I think it's interesting how they're going to do it, but
I mean, it just seems like they're putting the entire film on this Jake kid that we do not know
And
much
that's
about.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate because the books are very much about Roland, Idris Elba's character. So they are doing that. Again, this is a 7-book series, and I think fans are looking at it that way, and they shouldn't, because it is sort of like a sequel to the franchise, but it's going to tap a lot of stuff from the books, because essentially he is redoing the things from the books. I might have just spoiled the whole series for you guys. I'm sorry if I did, but
the last great child actor named Jake was the Phantom Menace, who we knew how that's kind of ruined everything.
Right?
Jail. Everybody loves the Phantom Menace.
I think he was. Yeah.
I think that kid's in jail now too.
Yeah, that's a great sign too.
Was it like war crimes for like starring in
No,
that film? Or?
Yeah, we watched a bunch of the Star Wars at work today. We had them on the TVs, and when Episode 1 came on, people were not
okay. You know,
happy.
the Gunslinger actually.
But like my impressions of it was
20 bullets in the air, and he just like grabbed them with his guns.
My goodness, the reload animations in that trailer are nuts. They're awesome. I mean, they're a little CG'd
the Dark Tower
up,
is good. You heard it here first.
Oh, he was just recently moved to a psychiatric facility. That's what happens when you become Darth Vader.
I mean, like, what that kid has been through hell through acting, and honestly, I feel really bad.
But at the same time, I mean, like, hey, man, you were in one of the most successful franchises of all time.
Yeah,
but
like,
I agree.
Just like he can't be on camera because people just hate him so much. And
who played Jar Jar Binks? That's the real question. People want to know.
Yeah,
that was George Lucas.
Hey, you were in Star Wars? Yeah. Who'd you play? You know, just an extra. No worries about it.
Yeah.
You think the person that played Jar Jar tells
best
Jar
Jar Binks?
I would say like
yes.
I would say like my reaction towards
exactly.
the Dark Tower was that Doctor Strange is easily one of the best Marvel films, and I don't want to say it stole some of the ideas. Not stole. That's not where I'm looking for, but like it definitely was influenced by Dark Tower in some ways, and as someone who hasn't read the books at all or any of that sort, jumping through dimensions, and that was like a key element of Doctor Strange. The thrill, the magic of that trailer was kind of gone. So whatever, like I like Matthew McConaughey. I like Idris Elba from The Wire. Great actor. Probably should be 007. Just saying. But honestly, like, what's the point? Like, it just seems like there's nothing new about it. Like with Doctor Strange, it just felt like there was something different. And that was definitely Doctor Strange was like the Guardians of the Galaxy of last year. I know that's releasing in T-1 hour on the Pacific, but
do you want to know anything about that? I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Don't reveal the Easter eggs or the credits, but
no, yeah, it's good. It's not as good as the first one. It's a different type of movie.
Film, Andrew.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so the movie starts with a dance number, and Baby Groot starts dancing. Also, we don't have video of you anymore, so I don't know where you went, Alex, but I assume you're just not listening anymore.
See, we don't have video. I don't have video of you, Andrew. So
I don't have video of you.
Wow, Google Hangouts amazing.
Wow, we are totally off the rails right now.
Okay, dance number. Baby Groot starts dancing. They fight a big guy. What else? Star-Lord's dad's in it.
So I just want to know, like in terms of how does I guess we're done just talking about Dark Tower, but in terms of
Dark Tower, I'm excited for it. I hope it's good. It's on the fringe of summer blockbuster movies. It only had a $60 million budget. I don't think it'll be a big loss if the movie does not take the world by fire. But as a Dark Tower fan, and as somebody who hopes that the movie's good, I hope it's good.
But anyways, I think like when it comes to Guardians, we're mostly interested in like how does this big universe connect to the Avengers, and how does that they don't mention that.
They don't mention that at all in the film. Yeah. So
like I'm really curious about like is Thanos finally gonna be like there and like not just like for two scenes, because that's like that's the big thing.
Yeah, Thanos is nowhere in this movie. He's mentioned once by Nebula, who's his daughter, but other than that, not mentioned in the film at all. Surprisingly, if you look at the timeline, it's Karen Gillan. I think Karen Gillan's very pretty. She was on Doctor Who. She's Scottish. Red hair. She was also on Selfie, the short-lived ABC show with John Cho. But if you look at the timeline, apparently this takes place like a year before Age of Ultron. Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
That would make sense, though.
She is very pretty.
So it's interesting, but I think Zoe Saldana is very, very pretty too, and she plays Gamora. But yeah, the new additions to the team, or the new additions to the film. Mantis. Yondu was in the first film, but he has a larger role in this one, and Ego, who's played by Kurt Russell. All do a great job. A lot of fun. It's a different type of movie than the first movie, so just know that going into it. But all the same great 80s music, all the same, high-flying action and space battles are in there. No spoilers, but there are 5 post-credit scenes in the film. So, you make sure you sit through them because they're funny. They're all funny. And
Does Rocket Raccoon have attitude?
Yes, he does. Bradley Cooper as Rocket, and Baby Groot.
I forgot Bradley Cooper does that character.
Vin Diesel also did the motion capture for Baby Groot, so I could only imagine the sessions of him, rolling around as Baby Groot. But yeah, it's a fun thing. Like I said, I didn't personally like it as much as 1, but it is a different type of movie. But at the same time, it is like, how I describe it is it's like playing the same level of a very good video game again. There's nothing like playing or experiencing it like that first time, but hey, this is still a great level to a great video game. So I don't mind going through it again.
I didn't really expect Guardians 2 to top the first one. I mean, the first one had this. Yeah, the first one had the unique factor and it was definitely different.
Yeah, I don't want to talk it down. It's a great movie. I loved it tremendously. So I'm sure it already made 101 million international so far, probably more by the time of recording. So I'm sure it's going to do just fine at the box office. And, everybody, if you liked the first one, you will definitely like this one. And again, it's fun. Those movies are, they have their attitude down, like what they're going for. They have it very well. Again, it's more of the same, but what is there is good. So, and like I said, Chris Pratt is a very good, funny man. Batista's great. The whole Guardians are really, really cool. So, yeah, I highly recommend it if you're a fan of the first one, definitely. But yeah, I mean, lots of good stuff. Great time for movies. Summer blockbusters are almost upon us. Great time for games, finishing up. I just realized Prey comes out tomorrow, which I'm really excited for, and that kind of just came out of nowhere. And then Rime, a game that I'm really interested to see if it turns out being good, comes out, at the end of the month. We didn't even talk about what we were playing. I got to play Tumbleseed.
It's totally fine. I mean, I played a little bit of Prey, but I played the first 2 hours of it. But honestly, I can't.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, but
we'll talk about that more when you play it.
But yeah. So I guess that's pretty good. This is a pretty good place to stop. But Andrew, where can they find you at?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ASP0426 and obviously, covered on vpdaily.com.
Tyler.
You can find me on Twitter at Tyler Trace. That's my name. And I tweet there.
TNT.
It's not his tweet.
You can find me on Twitter at almartinet. Thank you for listening all the way through. If you've listened all the way through, please give us a review on iTunes and give us a follow on SoundCloud. You can email the show at podcast@vpdaily.com and we'll read it on the show. Until then, we'll see you next Friday on SoundCloud and on Thursday on YouTube. Later.